Today we're taking a look at the Yamagiri, this super Japanese destroyer. This is a very, very good ship. And this game is going to go right down to the wire. This is a really, really fun game I had. And to start it off, we're going to take a look at what makes the Yamagiri so good. This ship, of course, is the extension of the Shimakaze line. So, of course, we have pretty solid torpedo power. It's really the guns, though, that really separate the Yamagiri from the rest of the line, in my opinion. It allows us to play a lot more aggressive and take a lot more gunfights. So not only do we have much better turret traverse, reload feels a little bit better, and we have this amazing burst fire. We retain an amazing concealment, and we have much more HP. All of that combined allows us to take gunfights much more aggressively. The Stalingrad here is going to help us with a radar. We know that it's a Chungmu here, and that means deep water torps, so I don't really have to worry about sitting broadside like this. So I can get a little bit lazy and launch all my torpedoes and then just sit here broadside. We should really talk about the Matchmaker though really quick. 9v9, not the standard battle we would get in World of Warships. Typically we have 12v12. There's those deep waters that we don't really have to worry about as a destroyer. And honestly, this 9v9 game I was pretty disappointed to see. The Matchmaker really only had one division and it was 2 tier 9 ships. I didn't really understand why we had such a small game. It didn't seem like the typical super ship division that waits in queue for 5 minutes and that's how you get a small game. But hey, we got a 9v9 game and it actually went really, really well. So then it brings up the topic of, should we look for more 9v9 games? Is World of Warships better with less ships on the field? Is it better to have a more spread out experience maybe? Maybe we just need bigger maps for these 12v12 game modes. I'm not sure, but this game certainly was a lot of fun for me to play. We managed to snag a torp hit on that Izumo, and now we know this Chungmu is coming in, and it's a radar Chungmu, which is very, very interesting. And thanks to our much, much better turret traverse here, I can be a little bit lazy and not prepare for this guy to come out and still manage to get a lot of guns on target. The Chungmu is about to go behind an island, so we may as well use our burst fire, and yeah, that is a pretty massive advantage we've just extended. Of course, it's a tier 9, right? It's a tier 9 ship, but this is a torpedo boat at the end of the day, and really the Shimakaze line has such weak gun power that you don't want to take straight up 1v1 engagements. You have to have something that allows you to have a massive advantage to really take a gunfight with any other DD. Yamagiri, though, is very different. And that's why I like playing it a lot more than the Shimakaze. I enjoy that ability to take gunfights and try and win a lot of map control for my team. Stalin pushes in, gets us a nice radar, and of course we're going to push aggressively for this Chungmu, even without the radar. I was going to go hunt him down regardless because we are just so far ahead on HP that even though he's kiting away, and that puts us at a pretty big disadvantage, I'm still very much going to win this fight. Stalin helps us finish him off, and that is going to be a pretty easy north map control gained. The A-gear is pushing in still, and this is where a Yamagiri can really shine with its torpedo power. Once you have that ability to sneak around the map and really get amazing torp angles on people, you're going to have a lot of fun. The A-gear, of course, does have a hydro, but he's still going to be pushing out from this gap, so I'm assuming that he doesn't actually have his hydro enabled right now. Otherwise, these torpedoes are going to hurt. And they do a ton of damage, of course. That is a main gimmick of these torps. And then I get spotted by the hydro, so I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe the hydro was a last-second panic once the torpedoes were spotted. I'm not sure, but we do manage to land a couple torps and manage to take this A-gear out, which feels great. The gimmick with the torps, of course, is you can run either the 12-kilometer torps or the 20s. It's much better to use the 12s since they are much stealthier. The 20-kilometer torps were pretty good back in the day on the whole wall of skill of Shimakazes that we see from 2015 era World of Warships, but they got nerfed pretty heavily, especially when it comes to the spotting. They are spotted from, what, 2.5, 3 kilometers away? Makes them very, very easy to dodge, where the 12 kilometers are a little bit stealthier, and it allows you to land a lot more torpedo hits. And it's hard to lead at 20 kilometers anyway. They're more zoning torps at that point. So our Stalingrad is getting a little low on HP, and this Izumo is pushing up towards islands. So, of course, We have the HP to tank a salvo from the Azuma. We may as well just YOLO this guy. We have a lot of freedom to move around this game. No CV certainly helps, but this 9v9 is very, very interesting to me. This northern flank typically ends in a stalemate. Typically, there's just too many ships that are camping the islands and farming over them. And, you know, I'm saying camping as a negative thing, I guess, but really that's how a lot of ships are meant to be played. That's how Wargaming has designed them. They're playing how they should. And you'd never get away with a YOLO like this in a 12v12 game. But in a 9v9, it kind of worked out, and that feels kind of nice. I like the extra space that the fewer ships provides. So I don't know if we need bigger maps or if it would be better to just have 9v9 games, but I love the extra space that this gives. And I know Ranked has smaller game modes where there's less people, but typically they redesign where the caps are and the maps that are used, making them into a lot smaller games anyway, and then the density of ships goes up again. So really, to me, it feels like this lower density gives you a lot of opportunities to play a little bit different than just the standard find the best island and then hold on to that as long as you possibly can. We find this Iowa up north, and, well, this isn't exactly a fair fight either. This is a tier 9 battleship with no ability to deal with us. But what's really interesting this game is how this is going to end. We have a pretty big advantage now, and the enemy team is starting to push back. They, of course, won the A flank. We won the C flank. I needed to use my speed boost to get back into the engagement as quickly as I possibly could, since our battleships are looking a little bit low. I used my 20-kilometer torps there since I didn't know if the Stalingrad was going to continue pushing, or perhaps he would stop and reverse, or I don't know, I just wanted the extra range. But he does continue pushing, and that puts us in radar range of him. The rest of this game really is going to be about tactics and strategy when it comes to destroyer play in the late game. And this is why I found this match so fun to play. Yeah, it was interesting earlier on getting all these kills and damage with the torpedoes, which is really good. It shows off how good the Yamagiri is. But just this tactical DD play is very, very fun to me. And it could be any destroyer, not necessarily just a Yamagiri. Maintaining your DD into the late game is so, so powerful. We lose both our battleships, and the enemy team is going to win this game. Keep an eye out for that score timer at the top middle of the screen. You can see whatever team has the bolded numbers. It's counting down there right now. The enemy team had theirs bolded, and now it switched to ours. So we win in 8 minutes if nothing changes. We move behind this island, of course, to dodge the Stalingrad radar. I was tempted to kind of stick around and try and keep them lit for a little bit longer, but I realized with our Småland getting into the A-cap, I just need to run. I just need to run away, and that is more than enough for us to win this game at this point. And that score timer is a mod, of course. It is in Aslan's mod. I think it's also in Mod Station. I'm not exactly sure. I don't actually use that one, but it's very, very valuable. In situations like this, it can inform a lot of decisions you make. We know the Iowa was in the B-cap, so I'm going to saturate a likely channel that the Iowa would take to maybe rush up here to meet up with his Stalingrad, or maybe the Dalarna would actually rush up there to try and finish me off. But the Dalarna gets spotted by the enemy, or our friendly Småland, and that's a fight that I feel like should be relatively even with the Dalarna taking a nerf to its DPM. Most people run gun build, I think. And yet our Småland absolutely crushes him. I could not believe it in the moment. He just owned them. So yeah, that definitely helps us win. I'm still running away, of course. The Stalingrad has entered the C-cap, and he's going to cap that one. Notice, currently, we are definitely going to win based on time. That score timer is just so useful. But we'll see what happens once the Stalin flips that C-cap. We do get him spotted, which is nice to know we're outside radar range. I'm just going to hang out here, keep him spotted, and try and know what he's doing. And we still win. So there's not a lot of pressure on us at this point. The enemy team has to do something, and we're in a pretty good spot to win this. So I dump torps, thinking the Stalin might try and rush me down, especially now that I'm spotting him. Maybe he's trying to get into radar range. And then he's going to turn, which means our torps are pretty useless. And that's potentially a little bit dangerous for us, as our Småland is going to go for the B-cap. He spots the Iowa going for the A cap. There's a lot of tactics here, guys, and realistically, it's important to communicate with your team. We barely get spotted by radar for just a split second. We know there's downtime now, about 2 minutes for that radar to come off cooldown. And with our Småland entering the B cap and the Stalin going towards the B cap, it's important that our Småland knows that the Stalin's radar is on cooldown. Communicating like that is pretty important. It's not always going to work out. You're not always going to get very good teammates, but based on how this Småland has been playing, he's a pretty good player. I think that's safe to say, especially on that DD 1v1 there, just crushing him. Also, you can look at clans and that. I think BN is a pretty good clan as well, so you could look at that as well, but I prefer to see how people approach the game. That way you're not relying on clans or famous names or whatever to determine if someone is worth communicating with and teaming up with and working together, if they're going to take advantage of that teamwork. Not everybody knows how to take advantage of the teamwork in this game, and that's fine. But learning to spot players that are going to make use of the information you provide or a smoke you give to someone as a DD, pretty important. And you can't just rely on clans to know that. So it's good to realize what makes a good player in a lot of different types of ships. Obviously, in this case, it's pretty easy to know that a Småland winning a gunfight like that against a Dalarna is going to be a pretty good player. And it's important we get back into C. Notice he's contributing to this intel as well, trying to get us back into the C cap as the Stalin is entering B. We never know. Maybe the enemy team is going to win if they get into B. And they do. 3 minutes left on the score here, and if things stay as they are, the enemy has 2 caps, and they're stalling out B, they're going to overtake us in points by the end of the game. So it's really important I came back towards C. That's why I was turning around once the Stalingrad had radared, and I saw him charging towards the B cap. I knew I was safe to come back here towards C, and I would have been just useless if I was going up into the corner. It's important to know when to run away, like we did earlier on, running away from the Stalin in C, and then know when to take map control again. It helps that we are just a DD here, and the enemy team has no destroyers. If they still had their Dalarna around, I would have been a lot more cautious, I guess I would say, since we're just on such low HP, and that Dalarna was very, very healthy. Fortunately for us, this Småland gets some really good resets on the Stalin and B cap, which pretty much secures the win for us. Even if I don't take control of the C cap here, we're going to win on time. He won't actually catch up to us on points, but we're going to take control of the C cap here. I swapped over to the 20-kilometer torp since we're nowhere near going to be in range to help on this Stalingrad. If he keeps pushing, maybe those torps will get there in time. And just like that, we now can have control of the B cap and the C cap again, and we look like we're going to win this game. So I hope that was interesting to you guys. A lot of map positioning and how to approach games as a DD here. Not every game is going to be the same, and really that's the beauty of playing World of Warships, and why I had a lot of fun playing this game in particular. I'm not sure what sparked a game like this. These can definitely happen in 9v9s, or sorry, 12v12s, the standard games. They can definitely happen in those 12v12s, but maybe the 9v9 had something to do with that. Obviously, no carrier, no subs has a lot to do with that as well. The standard surface ship gameplay is just so much better than the carrier and submarine gameplay from a surface ship perspective. It's a lot more interesting to fight surface ships, in my opinion. So there we go. Victory. We do get ourselves 120k damage, which felt pretty good, and a pretty nice tactical win as well. As for the build here, I'm certainly leaning towards a torpedo focus. Of course, taking that in the 6th slot gives us a pretty substantial boost to our torpedo reload. Concealment, of course, propulsion mod, always very useful for dodging torpedoes in caps and in smoke. Prop mod is just so good on DDs. I'm even taking Torp Tubes mod 1 here instead of aiming systems. I think you definitely could go for a more gun-focused build as well. I've definitely played that in the past. Just by switching out those 2 upgrades. The commander looks a little something like this. Pretty standard 10 points here down the right side of the skill tree. And then Adrenaline Rush is just amazing. I'm going with Fill the Tubes as well, trying to focus on torps a little bit more with this build, and Swiftfish. I think that running the main battery and AA Specialist is also really, really nice, giving us a little boost to our guns as well. A full gun build is kind of interesting, but Fearless Brawler isn't really what I want to be taking, since I don't want to take as much in sustained engagements in open water. I'm looking to take really, really advantageous positions on enemy teams, whether that's getting someone spotted by firing at me and then I pop my smoke and go dark, then Fearless Brawler doesn't work. So I really am looking for the sustained damage instead of the situational one on Fearless Brawler. And then I would just swap over to main battery mod 3 and aiming systems mod 1, and you got a pretty scary, very stealthy gunboat here. That's really what it comes down to. Sure, it's not quite as good as some of the other super ships or tier 10s in gun power, but you outspot all of them. There's no better ship at this concealment level as far as gun power. So you dictate the engagement. That's the important part when it comes to a Yamagiri focused on guns. But Torps are a lot of fun too. They certainly do pack a punch on this ship. And if you get the right game, oh my goodness, you can just devastate a flank. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. A bit of action at the beginning and a little more tactical at the end. I hope that wasn't too boring or anything like that. Maybe we'll include some more games like that with the more tactics side of things. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.